Our first speaker this evening began his career as an ocean lifeguard 38 years ago. He is an American Red Cross emergency medical response instructor and served as a rescue boat operator for the city of Huntington Beach for 11 years. Speaking tonight on spinal injury treatment, please welcome Marine Safety Lieutenant Claude Panis.
Thank you, Mike. You guys hear me okay out there? Let's see. Get this started. Okay. All right, you guys can all hear me out there? First, I want to send a big warm welcome out to Newport Beach and everything you guys have been through the last year and everything. Just you guys are our brothers in lifeguarding, and we really feel for you. And this thing with Ben Carlson affected all of us. But one of the reasons why we're here for Project Wipeout. So just want to send a big welcome out to the Newport Beach brother lifeguards out there. I started lifeguarding a long time ago, back in Huntington Beach when I was 16. I got hired as a young kid out of high school, and it was kind of a shock for me to be thrown into this job where I was dealing with life and death situations, making rescues, and performing medical aids, stuff that I'd never seen before. I remember back as a young guard at Sunset Beach, I was a young supervisor. I think I was in my 4th year. I got a call for a medical aid at Warner Street, and this was a guy that was my age. He was just about 20, 21, and I remember pulling up on scene, and he couldn't move at all. We did the initial assessment, checked him out, and he had no movement, nothing. And it really had a big effect on me because looking at him, I felt like I was kind of looking at myself. He was my age. He was definitely was in shape. He was a guy who body surfed, was in tune with the ocean and everything, but he had an accident that changed his life forever, and it really had an impact on me. I remember going to these Project Wipeout seminars from the very first one years ago and thinking, wow, this is a really good cause, the awareness and everything, and getting everybody aware of what it takes to handle cervical injuries. And the biggest point I got was that you as the first responder make the biggest difference in that person's life. And we're going to talk about Andrew in a little bit, but what you're doing on the beach as a first responder, everything you do is huge. And it's a really important part of the job. So take it seriously. And I'm going to go over some of the stuff that we do out here. I've got some pictures too. You can see spinal injuries happen all the time. There's all kinds of mechanisms of injury. I put a few pictures up here just kind of as an exaggeration, but if you can see, there's all kinds of ways you can get hurt out there. I just went on the internet and found a few pictures. I'm not sure if all these guys had cervical injuries, but they sure are asking for it. So, I mean, if you're in your tower and you see something like that, you might think, well, there might be a mechanism of injury. That's falling off big waves like this. I'm not sure where that guy's going to land. But let's talk about cervical spine injuries. First thing is recognition. You're sitting in your tower, you see someone go over the falls, hit the bottom. Maybe you see somebody floating around or somebody running out and taking a dangerous dive into the water. I noticed one thing. We just had we scored a record for the largest surfing surfboard and the most people on a surfboard. I was kind of watching the video after that, and I started seeing these guys. And these guys jump off the waves, and they were diving headfirst into about 2 feet of water. I don't know if anybody else caught that, but if you start looking at it, the lifeguard sense in me was going, oh my gosh, this is going to be really bad. But in a tower, you're watching for anything like that, and a lot of you guys have been in a tower and seen people wipe out on the shore break, go over the falls. So that mechanism of injury is real important. It's the first part of recognition, recognizing that there's a cervical injury there. When you go out in the water and you have someone unconscious, you automatically assume, you have to assume that's a cervical injury. They've probably hit the bottom. And we've had a number of cases in Huntington Beach that have been pretty serious. People hitting the bottom. One recently didn't turn out so well. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go out in the water, and there's going to be, you're going to look at and look for the signs and symptoms. But before that, let's talk about some extrication. You get out in the water. Like I said, you are the first responder. What you're doing is very important. The care that you're giving them when you first get there, the treatment and everything is huge. You want to stabilize them as soon as you get there. We work in a very dynamic environment. Water's moving, waves are breaking. It makes our job really difficult. It's really easy if you're a football player on a football field. They get hurt, the guy's down, they come in and they can stabilize him and move him, get a backboard out and everything. But we're dealing with waves. We're dealing with people, water moving, You have to get out there and do whatever you can to keep that spine still. Okay? What you do there is going to have a huge effect on the way that guy's going to spend the rest of his life. So it's not easy. We've all been there. We've done it. You can see that this lifeguard has actually got in. He's got his hands underneath the shoulder. He's holding spinal immobilization in the water while a wave's coming. He's turned his back to the wave. He's trying to keep him as still as possible. You got to do what you got to do. Sometimes it's really, really tough, but you just got to do your best. Here's another scene. You get to the shore and everything. You're taking him out. He's still holding what we call C-spine or spinal immobilization, keeping the spine straight and trying to get him to shore. What you want to do is he may have an injury. You don't want to make the injury worse. So you want to treat him as gingerly as possible, but you want to get him to shore without moving it, keeping his neck and spine in line. You see he's got his back to the wave. He's pulling him in. You may be in the water. You may have to use something like a bodyboard or something, get him on it, hold C-spine, keep him still. You might have to wait for backup. A lot of times, because things happen so quick there, you don't want to leave him in the surf. I would say 99 times out of 100, you're going to grab the guy and you're going to bring him into the surf, being as careful as you can. Immobilize on the sand. You get him on the sand, and you do what you can to keep his neck still. A lot of times we'll pack sand in around it. We try to get somebody calling for help, so we get backup coming right away. Try to get more hands on it, but we try to keep him as still as possible. One thing you got to do is reassure the victim, okay, especially if he's paralyzed. I had a guy at Beach Boulevard once. I showed up on scene, routine call. The guy was already laying on the sand. His buddy had pulled him in, but he was laying there, and he couldn't move at all. So I did the assessment on him and everything, and he was really scared, but one thing he did say later, that because I was calming him and reassuring him, it actually made him feel a lot better. Turnout wasn't so good for him, but it made him feel better that I was there reassuring him. So do what you can to talk to the victim. Do what you can to keep them still. If you have a victim who's got neck pain maybe and he's still able to move, tell him to stay still. Try to impress upon him that he may have a serious injury. Mobilization starts with holding C-spine, keeping the spine in line. After that, it goes to applying a stiff neck or a C-collar. Get it on him. And you still have to hold C-spine after you have it on, but make sure that you get a properly fitting collar. That one actually looks like it's a little big for him. That was the best picture I could get. But get the C-collar on, and after that, we're going to go ahead and immobilize him for transport and put him on a backboard. Now, there's been a new protocol out with backboards and their use, and I went over it a little bit, and I don't want to get into it too much today because it seems to be a little bit of a hot topic, but the bottom line is that you are going to consider what's best for the patient. If it means that you're at the water line and you've got a patient who you have to transport over the sand back to the service road to an ambulance, and you deem that the benefits of putting him on a backboard are going to outweigh the negatives, by all means, put him on a backboard. Get him across the sand. Like I said, you want to transport him from where the accident happened, stabilized, and get him back to the ambulance without causing any more injuries. So you really have to do what you think is best, and you use judicious use of the backboard, but get him there as safe as you can. If you think he needs it, go ahead and use it. So when you go ahead and you have your patient, first thing you want to do is you want to do an assessment on him. And I'm saying this for Dr. Skinner because he wanted me to impress upon you guys how important that initial assessment is for the doctors. And I promised him when we had a meeting a few weeks ago, I promise you, I will stress that. So Dr. Skinner, this one's for you. Make sure you do that initial assessment, and I think all the EPCRs on there have boxes and everything you can check for it. Whatever you have to do, if you don't have that, go ahead and write it down. Write down the time that you're doing it, and write down what you have. It creates a baseline for the doctors. It's going to affect the way they look at the patient, see if any of the movement's coming back later or how he's progressing. The first thing is mental status. When you're evaluating the mental status, you want to do your time, place, situation, self to see what his orientation is, but has the guy been consuming alcohol? Is the guy been maybe rendered a little unresponsive from the injury he had? Is he able to answer the questions properly? If he's hit his head real hard and maybe he's not all there, he may not be answering your questions about pain stimuli or anything else or where the pain is. So you've got to take that into consideration, but it all starts with evaluating the mental status. After that, we go on to a physical examination, head and neck. Look for the mechanism of injury. Is there the telltale abrasion on the forehead? It's a classic sign we see all the time. We have people walk up to our towers and and they're fine, but they've got that abrasion on the forehead, and our guards are trained immediately, hold C-spine as you guys are, until the supervisor gets there to further evaluate him. So look for that. Physical exam, head and neck. Look for any kind of trauma. Look for some swelling. Look for chest, abdomen, pelvis swelling, anything else. Anything that would show maybe a mechanism of injury. You may have seen him go over the falls. You may have seen a scene like the first pictures that I showed you. But basically, you're going to evaluate his physical examination. Motor function. After that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to grab his hand. You're going to do grips. You're going to do pulls. You're going to evaluate what the strength is on the grips. If they're pulling up equally, what they're like, the quality. Record all that for the doctors so they can see what the baseline is, what they started out as. So go through, do the motor function. Pain perception. We're going to want to see if the spinal cord has been compromised in any way. When I say pain, you're not going to be sticking knives in it, but take the back of a Q-tip and poke him a little bit. Ask him if he can feel it. Take into account his mental status. I mean, if he's had alcohol and everything, he may not be able to answer you properly. He may not feel it, but take into account mental status, light pain stimuli, see what happens with him. Try to get a picture of what his body's doing and if he's been impaired. Light touch perception. Touch the person on the side. Ask him, what am I doing? Can you feel that? What am I doing? Oh, you're tapping my leg. Go through that. Light touch perception. Again, record it. It's going to be valuable information for the doctors later. So, again, with the assessment here, it's very, very important. Calm the guy. Do the initial assessment. They're going through everything. This is all in addition to the ABCs that you do. We're talking about spinal injuries. Spinal injuries can have a serious impact on a person's life, and the way you treat them when you first get there could impact the rest of their lives. So you truly do make a difference. It's really, really important that you guys do the assessment, that you guys go through the proper steps, and you guys give the patient the proper care. We're about to meet a person who actually lived this scenario out. He was on the beach. He had an accident, and he reported to the tower, and he actually got the proper care. And with that, I'd like to call Mike Berline up. He's going to set the stage for what happened with Andrew. And we're going to go ahead and introduce you to Andrew, and we're going to give him a little bit of time to tell his story. So, Mike, if you'd like to come up.
So it was the summer of 2012, and there was a kid from Oklahoma on the beach. He grew up in Huntington Beach the first 10 years of his life, but his family had moved. So he knew how to body surf. He had been body surfing for years, but he had not been body surfing in years. So he was out there. He took off on a wave. One moment, he's riding the wave. The next moment, he is hearing a pop in his neck, and he's getting tumbled by the wave. And then again, he hears a couple more pops. And then from there, I'm going to let him finish the story. But right now, I'd like to call up the 21-year-old back in 2012, Andrew Meredith, who flew out here from Oklahoma to tell his story.
Thank you.
Andrew, you can use the mic here.
Is it okay if I walk around?
Oh, yeah, that's
Testing?
fine.
Can you hear me? Got me back there? Awesome. I'm Andrew Meredith. Thank you so much for the welcome. I'd like to start off. Thank you so much for everyone that's put this together, that's put Project Wipeout and this together. Linda, where are you? Right there. Linda, there she is. Linda's put a lot of time, effort into this, so thank you so much, Linda, for everything you've done here for us. And for everyone else behind the scenes that's made this possible. I want to tell you a little story. Before I came here, about 3 or 4 months ago, Linda contacted me, and she said, hey, would you like to come share your story with the Project Wipeout conference? And I said, yes, I'd love to. So I told one of my friends this, and I said, yeah, I'm going to be speaking in front of a bunch of lifeguards. And she goes, really? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, that's going to be some of the best-looking audience ever. So now... Now, I'm gonna kind of give you an inside look of my story. There's a video out. It's by Project Wipeout. They put out. It's called Andrew's Story. I really want to encourage you. Go to Project Wipeout. Go to YouTube. Check it out. There's multiple videos on there. Jeff, he's here somewhere with Ocean Motion Production. Where are you, Jeff? Somewhere in here. I saw him earlier. He put on these amazing videos. I really want to encourage you guys to check those out. Kind of basically my whole story. check it out. It says it's Andrew's story. There's also a lot of other really good videos on there you can check out. It's well worth your time. It'll help educate you a lot. So I don't want to share you exactly what's on that video. Okay. I'm going to kind of give you the inside look of my story, kind of what happened for you guys. Now, I came from Oklahoma, like Mike was saying. I lived here for 10 years, came to Huntington Beach a lot, body surfed a lot. I've never been really surfing, so I'd always body surf and boogie board and that kind of stuff. So now, come with me to August 3rd, 2012. It was a beautiful day, summer day. Ocean was great. Surf was really good. The U.S. Open was going on. And I was the typical person. I hadn't been in the ocean in a long time, so I was very uneducated of the power of the waves, the power of the ocean, exactly everything that went on in the ocean. And I jump in there not really understanding or being educated on everything in the ocean. And when I took the wave, basically what happened is I went over the falls. So I'm assuming most of you guys understand that phrase is basically when the wave crashes down, I went head first and I heard several pops in my neck. And at this time, I had no idea what was going on. I just know I heard pops in my neck. So instantly, after the wave settled down, I was able to walk up to the lifeguard station, laid down on the sand dune, and I told the lifeguard, I said, hey, I heard a pop in my neck. I have no idea what's going on. At this point, little did I know that I had a broken C1, T2, and T3. Now, your C1 is the very top of your neck, and basically what happened was your C1 is like a donut, and it sits on your C2. When you move your neck back and forth, that's your C1 rotating on the C2. And I had basically completely severed this, completely blew out a whole chunk of my C1. I was at a very, very critical stage at this point. If I would have turned my neck wrong one second, I would have been complete quad. We didn't know that. So all I knew is I heard a pop, and that's what the lifeguards knew, and that's what I knew. I hit my head straight on top of my head, so there's no abrasion or anything like that on my forehead. So instantly when I went up to the station, the lifeguards called over the head lifeguard, Tony, who unfortunately isn't here with us tonight. They called him over, and Tony said, okay, 9 times out of 10, it's no big deal, but if it is a big deal, we want to take you to the hospital and we want to get this checked out. Now, Tony didn't tell me something, actually. Apparently, there were 9 other people that day that have had non-fatal injuries, and I was number 10. So I was the number 10, the one with the broken neck. So now, as I'm laying there and Tony's telling me this, I had 2 groups of people. One group were all my friends. I had about 10 friends there with me that day. And the other group was the lifeguards. And some of my friends, they're looking at me. They weren't saying anything, but they were looking at me saying, come on, man, you're on vacation. We don't want to go to the hospital. We have tons of stuff we're going to do while you're here. Let's just take you back home, put you in the car. We'll put you on the sofa, get an ice pack, put it on your neck. You're going to be okay. You're 21. Nothing bad happened. This is okay. So I have that scenario. And now the other scenario is with the lifeguards. And they're saying, like, you heard a pop in your neck. This could be very fatal. We really want to take you to the hospital. We're going to take you in an ambulance in the hospital. And that really scared me. It's like, man, I don't want to go to the hospital. I have so much stuff I'm doing today. And this whole time I'm here, I'm only here for 5 days. I want to enjoy my vacation. It took Tony about 15 minutes to finally convince me to go to the hospital to get this checked out. And lucky he did, because little did I know that I had, like I said, the broken C1 at this time. What Tony told me, I want to stress on 2 points. What Tony told me, he told me a story. He said, about 2 years ago, there was a lady that came up. She was surfing, same thing, went over the falls, heard a pop in her neck, and the lifeguards, she told the lifeguards what happened. They highly suggested she would go to the hospital, get it checked out. Well, she didn't. 2 days later, she was walking down the hallway, turned her neck the wrong way, dropped down paralyzed the rest of her life. It's over. Paralyzed. Can never turn it back. If she would have gone to the hospital and gotten that checked out, probably would have been a completely different story. Another thing that's very critical, a lot of people that you see, accident victims at the ocean, are there with friends. When you convince the friends as well as the patient, look, you got to go to the hospital. Come on, encourage him. He's got to go to the hospital. He's got to get this checked out. He's got to get it looked at. When you get those 2 groups, the group of friends and the lifeguards really encouraging that person to get checked out at the hospital, it really will make a big difference. Because I really didn't want to go. And being a 21-year-old young guy, I'm like, I'm stronger than my accident. I don't need to go to the hospital or anything. But really, I did. I had no idea what was going on. The ocean, they don't have X-ray scanners on the beach or anything. So it's just literally the knowledge that you guys have. You guys really, really have to stress going to get it checked out. So those are the two things that really, encouraging the people that they are with, and also telling stories. Say, look, this is what happened to some people. This is what could be happening to you, because you're there to save lives. And if you could encourage that one person and make him go to the hospital, you could literally save his life. So that was in 2012, and now we're here. Something that I'm doing, I want to share my story more. I'm sharing my story more. Constantly people that come up, telling the proper ways of body surgery, what happened. Now in December, to help share my story and help people become more aware, I'm doing a 500-mile run across Oklahoma with one of my running partners. He's doing it for another reason. He's doing it for fundraising, but I'm doing it to help people with chronic illnesses, help people that have been injured, and say, look, it's hard to do it. I know it is, but you're injured at this point, and this is where I was 3 years ago. And any goal that you set, if you work hard at it, you can accomplish that. And you can become great. And because of this injury, you can become stronger. So that's really, really what I'm doing. I'm very excited about that, being able to do that run. So like I said, guys, really, really push getting lifeguard, getting a person, the victim, to go to the hospital, patient to go to the hospital. Because if I hadn't gone to the hospital and I didn't listen to Tony, I didn't listen to the lifeguards, it would have been a completely different story. Completely different. So because of my willingness to listen, because of Tony's persuasive words and stories, I'm here today standing. If I would have turned my neck, I was at a very, very critical point there. If I would have turned my neck wrong, I would have been a complete flop. So it's very critical that you guys really stress going to the hospital, getting it checked out. 9 times out of 10, Tony's right, it's not a big deal. But that one person that you could really encourage to go to the hospital could be that person with a broken C1. So keep it up, guys. I'm very honored to come here. Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions for me after any of us, come up to me. Love to introduce you, tell you more of my story. Again, check out the Project Wipeout video. You could hear more of the story of exactly the whole story of what happened on Project Wipeout. I didn't want to share the story with you because you could check that out online, but I really wanted to stress those points here tonight. So thank you guys so much. Honored to be here. Great audience. Take care. Thank you.
You guys can see we make a big difference. So when you guys go out there and work, remember that. Maybe that one guy in 10 who needs to go, but make sure you talk to him. Thank you for your time. Everybody be safe this summer, okay? It's good to see you.
So you heard Andrew's story. There's another part of it. He wound up having to have spinal surgery, and he wore a halo for months, and then he had to rehab for months after that. So I'd like to have one more round of applause. He talked about the lifeguard's decision. How about Andrew's decision to listen to the lifeguard?